buenas, can watch. Muy bien, y bienvenidos y bienvenidas. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you guys are all well. Vamos a practicar esta noche. We're going to practice tonight. We're going to take any questions. We're going to, do all kinds of things. So, okay. A ver, muy bien. I do want to start out tonight, unless you guys have any questions you want to ask beforehand. Start off with using antes y después. Antes y después. Sí, vamos a practicar. So I'm going to pull up this. I did send you the 2 videos on antes y después, right? Yeah, son fáciles. Those are easy. I'm not going to replay that because you already have that. But I am going to show this, that, which, if you printed it, but you've got it sitting there, sidebar, and I'm gonna, it's you may have had to handle 15, 16 papers all day long, and maybe it's off on the side, and yeah. I haven't had time to look at that for like 3 days, 4 days. Of course not. Okay, so we're going to take a look at antes y después. So you may want to have this paper handy. We'll talk about it a little bit. Antes y después, there's nothing really magical about these, but I think a lot of times we know they're opposites, but because antes starts with A and after starts with A, people like mentally do little gymnastics, and it's like they're 2 A words. Oh, those are not the 2 that are equivalent. Okay. Antes is before, of course, antes. Sometimes we do use antes alone. If you want to say before, or beforehand, before something else. Beforehand, or before we used to do this, or beforehand I was driving, or something like that. You might use antes just as antes. Okay, antes la gente fumaba más. Before, people used to smoke more. Antes la gente fumaba más. Before, people used to smoke more. But antes leíamos libros sin computadores. Before, we read books, or we used to read books without computers. And the same thing with that word después. So antes with a comma, that idea. Antes, beforehand. Después, afterwards. Okay. Afterwards is the después word, después. Sometimes we use them alone, perhaps with a comma. Okay. Primero vamos a la escuela, pero después vamos al café. First we go to church, but afterwards we go to the café. El tour acababa pronto. Después vamos al bar. The tour, el tour acaba pronto. Después vamos al bar. The tour is ending soon. Afterwards, shall we go to the bar? Okay. But a lot of times we pair up antes with the word de, and después with the word de. And you have to think of them as a unit together. Okay, they are linked words when we use them that way. Antes de, después de. And often you will hear them paired up with that word de. Okay, and the thing that is tough for us, because if you like to translate in your head in English, que no. Try not to do that, but I know it is hard. Es difícil, it's hard because your brain so desperately wants to do it. When that happens, when we use antes with de, when we use después with de, in English, we go into that ing word. And in Spanish, you will not use ing. Yeah, ing has a translation, ing is ando, tacked onto the verb, or yendo for ERIR verbs tacked onto the verb. But after de, we can't use that. So even though in English we would say ing, in Spanish you do not after the word de. After the word de, we go back to the infinitive, which, you know, when you think about it, guys, that's the easiest thing in the world because it's the no-brainer. I don't have to conjugate it. Yeah. It's the no-brainer. I don't have to do anything verb form, right? That infinitive. So, you know, cuidado, I put the word cuidado in there. The chunk of words you want is de with the infinitive. Antes de, infinitivo. Después de, infinitivo. So I'm going to put you off into groups for these 4 questions. We're going to look at the questions first in one big lump, right? And just take some turns. One person ask a question, the other answer. I'm going to try to put you as close into groups of twos or threes for this, okay? You're going to, somebody ask a question, you know, another person, the other person in the group, answer the questions. Te lavas las manos antes de comer. Te acuestas, do you go to bed? Te acuestas después de despertarte. Pagas la cuenta antes de cenar. Usas detergente después de lavar la ropa. You may need to change that underlined word, or maybe it stays the same. Comprenden? Understand? But do try to ask the question, have your partner answer, and then, you know, change roles. So we'll do that. Muy bien. ¿Cuántos tenemos aquí? How many people do we have? Oh, grupos de 6. We're going to put you into groups, 6 groups, 6 grupos. Y mi gato mi gata muy mala está quejándose. She's complaining. Oh, okay. A ver, here we go. ¿Qué creen ustedes? 5 minutos, 5 minutes o menos? Menos, más como 3 o 4, 3 o 4. These are kind of.
5.
These are kind of toggle. 5, okay, más o menos. So let's work that. We'll come back, see if you had any problems with it. Okay, remember to hit your join button. Freckles, qué mala gata eres. Why are you being such a bad kitty? Qué mala gata eres tú. Eres malísima. Pecas. Pecas. Ven aquí. Ven aquí. Cálmate. 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 No me digas miau. No me digas miau. Eres malísima. A ver, I just noticed, Isabel, Elizabeth, you are unpaired, right? Do you want to practice with me? Okay,
Sure.
let's practice together. Let's practice together. I'm going to ask you the first question. ¿Te lavas las manos antes de comer?
Sí, te lavas las manos antes de comer.
Okay, vale. And antes de is correct. Now, let's answer it. If I ask te lavas, do you wash? Well, you could answer it, you wash, like you wash, like any old you, right? How would you answer that saying I wash? Changing it.
Me lavo las manos antes de comer.
Fantástico, fantástico. Okay. Pregúntame, por favor. Ask me the next question. Just read it right off.
Okay, ¿te acuestas antes de despertarte?
Sí, me acuesto antes de despertarme. No me acuesto después de despertarme. I don't go to bed after waking up. Yeah. Me acuesto antes de despertarme. Sí, bien, ok. ¿Pagas la cuenta antes de cenar?
I could say, no pagas la cuenta.
Okay, no
Yes.
paga. Ujú.
Or you could say, pagas la cuenta después de la cena.
Exacto, exacto. Pago la cuenta, pago la cuenta, pago la cuenta después de cenar. En un café de comida rápida, fast food, quizás pagas la cuenta antes de cenar, ¿sí? Ok. Bueno, ok. Una pregunta para mí, Isabel. Give me one.
Okay, I have the answer. Usas detergente antes de lavar la ropa.
Sí, uso detergente antes de lavar la ropa, antes de lavar la ropa. No uso detergente después de lavar la ropa. Después de lavar, no. Antes de lavar la ropa. Magnífico. ¿Bien? ¿Ok? ¿Estás bien? Ok. So, is it easy for you to toggle between the antes de and después de and know what they mean?
Yes, it's just hard to do that when you say no, do something.
Okay. Sí. Ok. Por ejemplo,
Mhm,
abro la botella, I open the bottle,
mhm.
abro la botella antes de beber. I open the bottle before.
Drinking it.
Exacto, ¿sí? O abro el libro antes de leer. ¿Sí? Ok. O, por ejemplo, por ejemplo, miro los anuncios antes de comprar la comida. Miro los anuncios. I look at the
As
antes de comprar la
or
comida.
shopping.
¿Sí? Claro, bien, ok. O recibo un certificado, recibo un documento después de caminar.
Okay.
Recibo un documento
Uh-huh.
de las millas, of the miles.
Woo.
Recibo un documento de las millas después de caminar en el parque. ¿Entiendes?
Understand.
¿Entiendes? Bien, fantástico. Okay, we're going to let people in. We're going to give them a minute to finish up. Un minuto. Okay. A ver.
There's Marlene.
La pobre Isabel. Oh, you're stuck with me today, Isabel. You're stuck with me today. We'll have a few more with these. But that's okay. ¿Cuántas preguntas? 8. Ok. Hay 8. A ver. Ok. Muy bien. Ok. Esperamos a tres personas, 3 o 4 personas. We're waiting on a few more to come on back in. Last Thursday night, it was like I hit the button for people to come out and boom, immediately it worked. And sometimes there's this lag and a lag, and I'm like, oh no. Some people do pop in back in early just on purpose, but you know, sometimes it just clicks and sometimes it doesn't. A veces sí, a veces no. Okay, muy bien. ¿Tienen preguntas? You notice sometimes you had to change it to después de, or change it from antes to después, or from después to antes de, ¿sí? Bien, ok. Por ejemplo, discúlpame, Isabel, excuse me, Elizabeth. Recibo mi documento, recibo mi documento de las millas después de caminar en el parque. Después de caminar en el parque, ¿verdad?
Sí.
Ok. Compro la comida de Bashas después de mirar el anuncio. Después de mirar el anuncio, compro la comida. ¿Bien? ¿Sí? Ok. Por ejemplo, antes de abrir el cuarto de Zoom, abro mis apuntes y leo mis apuntes, ¿sí? Leo mis apuntes antes de abrir el cuarto de Zoom. ¿Entienden?
Sí.
¿Entienden? Okay. A ver, bueno. So here, aquí, we're going to take a look at some different kinds of questions. And these are going to be very open-ended. Okay? Very, very open-ended. Por ejemplo, vamos a ver las 4 preguntas, las primeras 4, the first 4. Hay 4 y 4, hay 8 en total, ¿bien? Y vamos a ver las primero 4, ¿sí? Preguntas. Ok, las primeras preguntas aquí. ¿Qué haces antes de viajar por avión? What do you do before traveling on an airplane? This is very open-ended. So you can talk about anything whatsoever. There are no real wrong answers unless it's, ¿qué haces antes de viajar por avión? Por ejemplo, tengo que compartir. I need to share my screen. ¿Qué haces? The thing I want you to notice is that wherever you read to your partner a ¿qué haces?, that verb haces needs to completely come out in most cases. It needs to go away completely, and a totally different verb has to step in. It's like saying, what do you do before you cook? And you don't say, you do before you cook. You know, you say you take a bottle off the shelf, you turn on the oven, you cut up vegetables, you get a drink. You do something, right? So you plug in a totally different verb for haces. You know, unless unless it's something like hago la maleta, I pack my suitcase, then okay, you know, maybe. But in 99% of the cases, that verb haces has to come out completely, and you plug in the totally different verb that's going to stand in. You know, what do you do before you take your picture? You put on makeup, you put on a nice shirt and tie, you do something, right? So that a new verb has to stand in for the haces, and it changes. ¿Qué haces antes de viajar por avión? What do you do before you travel on a plane? ¿Qué haces antes de ir al supermercado? What do you do before going to the supermarket? ¿Qué haces después de llevar la comida a casa? What do you do after carrying the food into the house? ¿Qué haces antes de preparar la declaración de ingresos? Declaración de ingresos. That means doing your taxes. Filing your taxes.
That's all I know.
Declaración de ingresos. Your tax is your tax return. Preparing your tax. So tax return is not the word return. It's declaración de ingresos. Okay. Bien. Okay, so I want you to take turns asking questions back and forth. This one you're going to need at least 5 minutes, por lo menos 5 minutos, ¿no? ¿Verdad? 5 minutos. Sí. Okay. Vale. Okay. ¿Hay preguntas? Any questions before we go off into groups? ¿Sí o no? 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 Totally open-ended. But now remember, after antes de, we need an infinitive. We need that infinitive, right? Right? That part there has to stay as an infinitive because after that word de. And that is a rule in Spanish where, you know how a lot of times we say, well, most of the time it does. This is an always. It's an always. After the word de, after the word a, after the word para, after the word con, you don't get a choice. You have to have just the infinitive. So that makes life a little easier, ¿no? ¿Verdad? Okay. Bueno, nos vamos. We're going to go back into our rooms and hit your join button. El botón de entrar. And I'm going to set my watch so that it does a nice countdown. And Isabel, I'm going to assume, ¿dónde está Isabel? Isabel, I'm joining your group. Here we go. You want to ask me the first one?
Sure. ¿Qué haces antes de viajar por avión?
Antes de viajar por avión, compro un boleto de avión y confirmo el vuelo y hago las maletas. I pack my bags. ¿Bien? ¿Vale? ¿Sí?
Okay.
Ok. ¿Qué haces antes de ir al supermercado?
Well, I have that hago in there. Hago una lista antes de ir al supermercado.
Bien, sí. So that's a situation where hago is a proper use that, you know, you can plug in the hago. Hago una lista, sí, una lista de comida. Antes de ir al supermercado, ¿ves que está a la venta? Do you see what's on sale? Sí, sí, ok, vale. Ok, antes de ir al supermercado, tomas tu tarjeta de débito.
Debit card? Sí.
O pagas con cheque.
What's,
Or
what
do you
is that?
pay with a check? o pagas con cheque. ¿No pagas con cheque?
No, or efectivo.
Efectivo, bien, con efectivo. Ok, vale. Pregúntame, por favor. Please ask me the next one.
¿Qué haces después de llevar la comida a casa?
Después de llevar la comida a casa, pongo los paquetes en el gabinete y pongo la carne, las frutas y las legumbres, los vegetales en la nevera. Y pongo los vegetales en un saco, en una bolsa especial para fruta y vegetales. Bien, ok. ¿Qué haces antes de preparar la declaración de ingresos? Oh, what do you do before? Esto a mí no me gusta. I don't like this one at all. A mí no me gusta para nada.
I looked this word up. Recapio todos mis papeles
Sí.
antes de preparar.
Sí.
Uh,
Ok. Recoges los papeles, ¿sí? Los
Yeah.
papeles del banco, los papeles del trabajo, los papeles papeles financieros, financial, no me gusta. Y hay que sumar, you have to add up, hay que sumar, sí, las cuentas de recetas, your prescriptions, sí, todo eso. A mí no me gusta para nada. Es mucho trabajo, ¿no? Es mucho trabajo. Okay, I'm going to have to leave this room and go back. So I call everybody out para que sepas, so you know. A ver, okay. Ok, a ver. Oh, Isabel, I'm so sorry if that booted you out. Probably because I joined and had to come back in and then it booted you out. And then, perdón, I am so sorry about that. Okay, aquí vienen todos. We'll have everybody coming back in about 20 segundos, 20 segundos más o menos. Espero, I hope, espero. Okay. Okay, a ver. Okay, todos estamos. We got everybody back, I think. Creo que sí. Sí, okay. Vale, magnífico. Bueno, hay preguntas. Any questions on what you did or things you weren't sure of? Karen, dime.
Yes. Número 2.
Okay.
¿Qué haces antes de ir al supermercado? And I want to say, I think about what I need to buy. So is it pienso que or pienso en?
Qué buena
Lo
pregunta.
que necesito de comprar. So that's what I said.
aquí viene. Here it comes. I'm going to put it up in the chat box. Pienso en. Pienso en. This is a tough one. It's something, it's a good verb to think about. It's one of those word chunk things. Pensar, think about. You know, we want to translate about as maybe sobre or acerca de or something like that, you know. You could use de. You could use pienso de, but really think about is pienso en. Pienso en. I mean, that's the word they're going to expect to hear from you.
Mhm.
And if they don't hear en after that, it'll be, I missed a beat. Yeah. Pienso en, and now it's lo que. Pienso en lo que. Pienso en lo que necesito comprar. I think about that which I need to buy. That's just what they use. Lo que, what I need to buy. So what? Ooh, this is a kind of a thorny question. You know the word what as
Okay.
que,
Yeah.
but que is what when you ask a question. ¿Qué tienes? What do you have? ¿Qué haces? What are you doing? ¿Qué vamos a hacer? What are we going to do? But many times when we say, oh, I know what you're talking about.
Mm.
I know what he did. Now it's not that what is no longer a question, is it? So quite often that's going to morph into that little 2-word combo that's lo que. And that lo there is not a masculine word. It's a neuter word. Ooh, it's a neutral. It's total. It just refers to a situation. Okay. Lo que. What? Okay. Qué buena pregunta. Okay. ¿Qué más? What else? Anything else? ¿Algo más o no? ¿Hay más
On
preguntas?
number 3, there was just a question, whether you would repeat the llevar in the sentence, or would that be traer
Yeah, I
in
wondered.
bringing?
Oh, depende. It really depends. If your point of view is I am now home,
Yes.
if the point of view is I am now home, it'll be traer.
Ah.
If the point of view is I'm in the middle of doing it, then it's llevar. It depends on, depende. Depende
Okay.
del punto de vista. It depends on your point of view. Bien, buena pregunta. ¿Algo más o no?
How do you say I want for the next one? I gather all my documents. What? I looked up gather and I've just never used that word before. Gather. Rachel?
Yeah,
Yeah.
gather,
That's what
you-
gather.
what I will use recoger because it means pick up and pile them all in. Now, there is a word coleccionar, and that coleccionar is kind of, yeah, accumulate. You really can make it as simple as busco
Oh, just search.
mis documentos. You can make it, you know, there are many things people may use. Busco mis documentos, because, you know, when you look for them all, don't you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Busco es muy apropiado. Busco is really appropriate here. Busco mis documentos, because you really hunt them out, right? I mean, you know where they are, but you hunt for them and you pull them out. So busco mis documentos is a really appropriate use of that word busco. I look for them all and I pull them, right?
Okay.
You know, it can be as simple as tomo mis documentos, I take my documents. Pongo mis documentos en una carpeta, I put my documents in a folder. It could be a whole bunch of things. It might be all different kinds of verbs. Pero es buena pregunta. It's a really good question. Hay más.
I also said in that similar line, receipts, facturas, would that be the right word for receipts?
Sí, bien, sí. Mhm. Okay.
Could you say
Magna.
something like juntos todos mis documentos?
Oh, like take this verb? juntar, salud. No. Juntar does mean to put things together, but they would not use that with, well, you might, but it would be, juntar would be more to join things together.
Okay.
Yeah. People would use other things in a conversational way. But that's a good question. Es buena pregunta. We have that word juntos, which means together. You could say, recojo los documentos todos juntos, all together.
Okay.
All together. That, you're using it as a describer, then todos juntos, all together would make sense. Es buena pregunta. Good question. Okay, algo más. Hay cuatro más. We got 4 more. Hay cuatro más, ¿verdad? And we're going to take a quick look at them to make sure that everybody's on the same page and they know what they're asking and talking about. Aquí, bueno, vamos a ver. ¿Qué haces después de preparar la declaración? Abro una botella de cerveza. Ok. ¿Qué haces después de levantarte? After getting up, right? ¿Qué haces antes de acostarte? What do you do before going to bed? ¿Qué haces antes de cocinar? What do you do before cooking? So wide open, again, lots of different things you might be talking about and saying, okay? I am going to pull that off. 5 minutos más. We'll give you 5 more minutes and we'll come on back and move on to a different activity. Otra actividad. Aquí, okay. Vamos. Okay, are you still with? Oh, sí, estás aquí. Wow, I wonder why the first time it didn't pop you in my room, but this time it did. No sé por qué. I don't know why. Okay, how about if you ask me the first one here, Isabel? Oh, can you hear me? ¿Me puedes oír? No, eso no. Okay. Oh,
Okay.
can
Try it again.
I did not know if you could hear me. Perdón. Okay. Ask me the first question here, Isabel.
¿Qué haces después de preparar la declaración de ingresos?
Después de preparar la declaración, voy a la agencia de ingresos, pago por los servicios, I pay for the services, ¿verdad? Pongo los documentos en el correo. Pongo los documentos en el correo o envío los documentos de manera electrónica. ¿Sí? Ok. Número 6. ¿Qué haces tú? ¿Qué haces después de levantarte?
Después de levantarte.
And now, when you're answering it, it'll become levantarme.
Oh, después de levantarme,
Bien.
pongo la ropa.
Me pongo la ropa. Me pongo la ropa. Bueno. ¿Algo más? Something else?
Pick it up. Cepilla
El pelo.
El
cabello. El cabello. Sí.
Yeah.
El pelo. Bueno. A ver. Ok. Pregúntame, por favor. Ask me, please.
Okay. ¿Qué haces antes de acostarte?
Ah, sí, bien. Ah, a ver, momentito. Antes de acostarme, me cepillo los dientes.
Mhm.
Me cepillo los dientes. Cierro las puertas con llave. I lock the door.
Ajá.
Sí, y a ver, ¿qué más? Y, sí, y también traigo un, traigo un gatito a la cama. I bring a little kitty to bed. Traigo un gatito a la cama. One lucky kitty gets to sleep every night. Un gatito. Ok, muy bien. ¿Y cuántos?
¿Cuántos gatos?
Hay 5, pero
Wow.
una gata siempre duerme con mi hija.
Oh,
Es la gata de mi hija y su gata siempre duerme con ella, solamente con ella, con nosotros no. A veces hay 2 gatos que duermen con nosotros, con mi esposo y yo. A veces 2, a veces un gato o una gata, pero a veces 2. Ok, ¿y qué haces antes de cocinar? ¿Qué haces tú antes de cocinar?
miro los ingredientes antes de cocinar.
Qué bueno, sí. Miras los ingredientes, sí. Antes de cocinar, corto muchos legumbres. Corto y también corto la carne o el pescado, lo que sea. Bien, sí. Y bueno, fantástico. Okay, a ver, I think we'll let people back in. So I'm
Okay.
going to move out. If it bumps you, come right back in. I hope it doesn't do that. I don't know why it does that sometimes. A veces, uy. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can just hit the closed rooms. I think it'll keep you here. I am still sometimes mystified by the Zoom thing. It'll do one thing one time and something else another. And it's like, what did I do differently? And sometimes, you know, a veces no entiendo muy bien lo que hago de manera diferente, pero así es. So it is. Okay. A ver. ¿Y qué es eso? Aquí, mis preguntas otra vez. Esperamos a 8 más. We're waiting on about 8 more people. 10 segundos. Less than 10 seconds. Okay, aquí vamos. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Excelente. ¿Tienen preguntas después de practicar? Do you have questions after practicing this?
Hey,
Okay.
see, a question on numero 6. If I wanted to say I go for a walk after I get dressed and go for a walk, could I say voy a camino? Or I looked it up because I couldn't remember. I thought there was like a collection of words that meant that, and it said dar un paseo.
There are chunks of words.
Okay.
See, there are chunks of words. And I'm going to pull up a big screen for this
Okay.
one because es buena pregunta. A lot of times what's good for you to know is that, of course, there's not necessarily just one way to say a certain idea. And Wow, hey, let's collect some ideas. Unas ideas en inglés. ¿Cómo se dice en inglés? Go for a walk. What are different things we use in English for go for a walk? Sometimes we say go for a walk, but we don't always say that. We might say
Take a stroll.
take a stroll. Gracias. We might say
Go for a hike?
go for a hike. Yeah. We might, but you get the idea. There's, but you know, and go for a walk or take a stroll would probably be the most common, right? But there are, of course, just like sometimes we have different ways of expressing something in English, there are different ways you can say the same thing. You can just keep it really simple. You know, I got to remember this one word, caminar, and conjugate it, right? Or andar and just conjugate it. Okay, so that's the simplest thing. But dar un paseo, dar un paseo, dar un paseo, take a stroll, literally, right? También pasear. Pasear is built on that paseo word, but pasear turns it into a verb. Paseo. I walk around. Oh, yeah, sometimes we just say in English, walk around. Walk around the block. Yeah, we say all kinds of stuff. Okay, so
Aimlessly
pasear.
wander.
Perdón, otra vez.
Aimlessly wander.
Okay, sí, aimlessly wander, sí. Sin destino, sin rumba, with no destination in mind. Okay, so pasear. And we can also say this, dar una vuelta. Dar una vuelta is kind of like saying take a lap. I know it has dar, which means give. So this does not seem very logical that we would use give, the word, the verb give, but dar un paseo is often used. And una vuelta is kind of like, we might say, take a turn around the block. Una vuelta is not going to mean like a great big long hike. Una vuelta is going to mean a short run, right? A lap. Going around the block would be una vuelta.
Is that from volver? Is that from volver to
Yeah,
return?
the word vuelta is related to the word volver because volver means to return, come back, or go around in certain ways. Okay, and the past participle for that is vuelto. So when we turn it into vuelta, vuelta is kind of like saying a lap or a turn, you know, around an area. Vuelta there is used really, well, una vuelta, it's used as a noun, dar una vuelta. So there are a lot of ways to say, take a spin, although that's with a car, yeah. Oh, maybe not always, okay. Es buena pregunta, that's a really good, because a lot of times we do chunk words together to give that idea. Okay, bien. Pasear, dar un paseo, dar una vuelta. Ok, magnífico. ¿Hay otras preguntas? Any other questions? ¿Sí o no? Sí. Oh, Keith first. Y entonces Karen.
Número ocho.
Okay.
But it's not, but so what I was, so number 8, before I cook,
Sí,
and
sí.
when I was trying to say was take a nap.
Oh!
So is it tomo una siesta?
Exacto.
Tomo una siesta? Either one.
Tomo una siesta. Okay, a ver, let's see. Tomo una siesta, I take a nap, o duermo la siesta, I sleep the siesta, you could say, but tomo una fiesta. Tomo would be really conversational. Sí, tomo una siesta.
But how about llevar? Use of llevar, it's like conjugated llevo.
For siesta?
Yeah. Llevo una siesta?
Oh, quizás, pero más como tomo una
Como
siesta. Tomo,
Sí.
mejor,
Gracias.
sí. Es buena pregunta. Ok, y Karen, ¿tienes pregunta?
Número 5. I want to say, after I did them, I put them in the mail. So, después de la preparé, la pongo en la correo.
La pongo. I put it in. La pongo en el correo. El correo, post office.
En el correo.
And that'll be, yeah, en el correo. En el correo means you're putting it in the official postal service. El correo, always el correo. Bien.
How would you say file with the IRS?
Oh.
Archival or something?
I would say, los envío al gobierno. That's probably the quickest, easiest way for you to remember. Gobierno, government. Yeah.
Okay,
Los envío, I send them, meaning all that document stuff,
Okay.
right? Or you could say lo envío, I send it. Es posible. That's possible too. Buena pregunta. Okay. Bien. So sometimes you want a simple thing, you know, los envío, los mando, or lo mando, I send it, lo pongo en el correo. You know, rather than trying to think of how would I use the formal verbs for to file and don't worry about it. Go with the simplest, most direct, thing, because that's what your brain is going to need to access is the simplest, which will be like words like send or put. Yeah, go for the simplest answer. Bueno, ¿hay más preguntas o no? ¿Sí o no? ¿Sí o no? ¿Sí o no? Okay, a ver, I want to talk a little bit about our and take questions and point some things out. Oh, sí. About our episodio, nuestro episodio. And I should, momentito, I'm going to stop my share and shift my screens off a little bit. We're not going to play the whole thing out, but I may fast forward because that may help you kind of, you know, a lot of times we're all very visual creatures, and sometimes we need that kind of that visual of what you watched in the video to kind of jog our memory on, oh yeah, I had a question about blah, 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 blah. Okay. What I want to point out about this episodio, and I need to put it on my share screen so I can go fast forward certain times. Hay muchos términos médicos. Hay muchos términos de la salud. There are a lot of terms about health, de la salud. Hay muchos términos médicos, lots of little medical verbs and medical vocabulario de la salud. Okay. Hay mucho pretérito. There's a lot of past tense kind of hiding here and there. What people did. Más importante, more to the point, because we kind of plan to touch on this today. There are a ton of commands in this episode, you know, like take his temperature, stick out your tongue, because he had, you know, stick in thermometro, you know, he had to stick the thermometer in the kid's mouth. You know, take her to the tent, because Angela was having a great big connection meltdown. Yeah. A lot of commands. So they used a huge number of commands. Did you have any questions about any kind of medical things they used, or like how to use dolor de with a body part.
Marilyn, I have one quick question.
Sí, sí.
They said unos rayos X. Is that
X.
X-ray equipment?
Take
Because they were
Ah,
saying the hospital.
Rayos
had
X.
this.
Okay. Yeah. Rayos X. Rayos X. Oh. It just means X-rays.
Oh, okay.
Rayos is rays. X means X.
Oh,
X.
Oh,
It's
Okay,
a
thank you.
literal, yeah, it's a literal
okay.
translation. Rayos X, sí. It is an
Gracias.
actual literal translation. Rayos X. Buena pregunta. Okay. I want you to notice they used a lot of this. Me duele. You heard a lot of me duele. It hurts me. When you want to say a body part hurts, this is a verb just like gustar. Just like gustar. So it's always going to be duele for one thing hurts. If your head hurts, it's one thing. If your stomach hurts, it's one thing. God forbid, if your chest hurts, it's one thing. Okay? If your throat, if you have a sore throat, it's one thing. But that verb will switch to duelen if something plural hurts. So if my eyes hurt because I've been reading and straining my eyes all day, me duelen los ojos. Me duelen los ojos. If my knees both hurt because I have arthritis and they both hurt, me duelen las rodillas. If I walked 10 miles and my feet are killing me, me duelen los pies. ¿Verdad? Sí. But if my throat hurts, me duele la garganta. And that pronoun that goes in front of duele, or the pronoun that goes in front of duelen, tells who feels the pain. So you use the same pronouns you use with gustar. You use me to say it hurts me. You use te to say it hurts you. You use le to say it hurts him or her. You use les to say it hurts them, right? We use nos to say something hurts us. You know, if we all had bad food, nos duele, right? Something is hurting us. So that's how but that verb doler is used very, very commonly with a body part hurting. Okay? Bien?
So,
A ver.
so Ellen, put in a body part there.
Sí, sí, sí.
The noun simply goes right after duele.
Okay. Okay, por ejemplo. Después. Perdón. Después de recibir la inyección, me duele el brazo. Brazo, should be no X, no. I had a fat finger thing there. Okay, perdón. Otra vez. Otra vez. Well, let's try this again. Después de recibir la inyección, me duele el brazo.
I see. Okay.
My arm hurts. My arm hurts after getting a shot. Me duele el brazo.
Mhm.
Hoy no me duele la cabeza. Hoy no me duele la cabeza. No me duele la garganta. Me duele el hombro un poco. Me duele el brazo un poco. Bien, pero, cuando leo por horas y horas y horas, cuando leo por horas y horas y horas, me duelen los ojos, me duelen los ojos. Después de caminar 400 millas, me duelen los pies, me duelen los pies. ¿Bien? ¿Sí?
Sí.
Después de tomar 3 o 4 cervezas, me duele la cabeza. Bien? ¿Sí? Okay, so, me duele for one body part hurting, but me duelen if it's ojos, me duelen if it's pies, feet, both of them. ¿Sí?
Sí.
Okay.
Gracias.
¿Es mejor? ¿Is that better?
Mucho better.
Okay. Fantástico. Bueno, ¿qué más? ¿Algo más? Anything else?
Question.
Sí, Patricia.
For some reason, I thought we used say for the reflexive se instead of lay. Am I
Say for reflexive, yes.
okay, but not for duele then?
Not for, oh, yeah. Okay,
I'm getting
right.
mixed up.
Duele is like gustar. It uses indirect.
Okay.
Me, te, nos, le, les.
Okay, so not the
So never, not
indirect.
se duele.
Okay,
Le duele, les duele. Like le gusta, les gusta.
okay, so indirect object.
Sí, eso es, sí. So think of it as a block of words together. Always le duele, les duele. If you're talking about somebody else, not me, not us. Sí, eso es. Es buena pregunta. Okay, hay más. Any other things with doler? Sí, Karen.
Well, there was a phrase that I wrote down, and now I don't have the context of it, but in Mexico se ocuparán del brazo y de la pierna.
Se ocupaba.
Se ocuparán.
Ocultaron.
No,
Oculta-
ocuparán.
Ocuparon.
I looked up
Se ocuparon.
ocuparse.
Okay, he got himself busy with that. He made himself busy checking out those body parts on that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ocupar is to occupy, but not to occupy a physical place, to busy yourself about a task. Sí.
Okay. So I looked up ocuparse, it said to deal with, so.
Yeah, exactly, exacto, right. To make yourself busy working on something. Sí, eso es, that is right. Eso es. Okay. ¿Hay más? Any other quick questions on anything that didn't make sense? Sí or no?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. I am going to try. Wow, why did they get into religion connected with medical events? I have no idea how they made that leap. That was kind of a big leap. What to do if all else fails when you're doing the medical thing, I guess.
You pray to the Virgin if you're worried about.
Yeah, La Virgen. Well, what I think they're trying to do is kind of show you, a little slice of life, a little bit about, the cultural thing. And actually that whole thing with, amongst religious people, that devotion to La Virgen de Guadalupe is a very intense thing for people who are intensely religious in Mexico. That is true. And they show you a little bit about ballet folclórico. They show you how they're modern. Hay ciudades modernas, hay campos, they show you all that. And, then they seg into the whole se derrumbó, every cave in, se derrumbó. and they start to talk a little bit about, gruñendo, groaning, yeah, that's so helpful. But they talk a lot about treatment, medical treatment, and then, they seg into not emergency, but, with kids. How do we talk about that? And they use a lot of commands like, saca la lengua, take out your tongue. That's how they say, when you ask a little kid to stick out his tongue, you can't use the verb stick. Like, that doesn't even make sense in Spanish, saca la lengua is stick out your tongue. That's why he was saying saca la lengua. You literally take out your tongue. It's kind of like saca la basura, taking out the garbage. You stick out your tongue. It's like, a ver, that's the way to, oh, and you saw a ver, a ver, a ver, a ver. We heard a ver about 5 times. A ver, a ver, a ver. What the heck was that going on there? A ver, a ver. What they want to imprint on you is that this phrase, with a ... a ver. And it's not really, doesn't really seem like it's connecting to something specific. A ver. A ver is one of those throw it out expressions. And it's hard to translate. A ver is like saying, ooh, let's see. That's a ver. A ver. Sometimes a ver is used kind of in the sense of, well, we better do this. You better do this. A ver is something is following, let's see, let's do something else, something new. So they wanted to impress that phrase, a ver, on you, that it's a phrase that people throw out a lot. Well, let's see, what shall we do next? A ver. A ver, and now here comes the thing that's going to happen next. Okay. Pobre Carlitos, estaba muy enfermo. He was really sick. Okay. A ver, se toma la temperatura. They talk about fiebre, a lot of fiebre. Y entonces, aquí entonces tenemos el pobre don Fernando, que todavía está enfermo. He's still sexy. He's kind of a feisty little dude for his age. He's, I'm surprised he's not pinching the nurses. He seems like that kind of guy. But yeah, see. Okay. More religious things. How does this get plugged back into, illness? I don't know. And they'll say, I do want you to notice something because this is going to come up next episode. They were talking, ¿quién es esto? ¿Quién es esto? Who is this? Es Gloria. Es Gloria. Gloria es la esposa de Carlos.
Okay.
Carlos es el papá de Carlitos. Carlos is a very doting father. Carlos plays with them. He plays with, let's tell the time on the clock. Remember that all the way back. Carlos, plays the Simon Says with the kids. Carlos es un padre muy activo. Es un padre muy activo, ¿no? Carlos es un padre muy activo. Qué buen padre. What a good dad he is. And Mercedes pointedly tells her sister-in-law what a good dad Carlitos is. I do not notice if you notice that this was a jab, but it was a jab. Estuvo jugando con ellos todo el día. He was playing with them all day. When you were not here, cuando no estabas aquí. He was playing with them while you were not here. That was meant to be. That was a dig. Yeah. And she knew it. If you did not see the eyes shift, go back there, right around 18 and a half minutes. Yeah. And her eyeballs, she didn't really do an eye roll because she's like, yeah, she's trying to play it down. Hay un problema con la pobre Gloria. La pobre Gloria does have an issue. We're going to find out what it is a little bit later, un poquito más tarde, okay? So Gloria has been notedly absent during the childcare issues where you would normally expect la mom to be coming in and, you know, doing the temperature and all that stuff. Okay. Se lleva muy bien con los niños. Oh, he gets along well with the kids. You know, she kind of tries to brush it off. Okay. But lots and lots and lots of commands, you know, y pobre Carlitos no quiere que venga el doctor. He does not want the doctor to come. Es un niño muy típico, ¿verdad? Y todo eso, everybody's speculating on, you know, el buen doctor. Y pobre. ¿Dónde está? Well, pues, pobre él. Yeah, poor him, because he's got a heart condition. Pero, ¿quién? Arturo, el pobre Arturo. El pobre Arturo.
Doesn't know.
Ah, ditched him.
Lo dejó plantado, stood him up. Lo dejó plantado, left him planted like a pot. That's the phrase used for stood up. Lo dejó plantado. El pobre, poor guy.
Yeah.
Ahí está. ¿Dónde estaba Raquel? Nadie sabía. Nobody knew. Okay, we want to go through a little bit with commands. You heard tons and tons of commands, and I will send out a video for you to watch on commands, and I'm kind of still editing that because commands are a little bit of a sticky issue. But here's what we're going to talk about. Generally, for you as a visitor, I'm tailoring this. For you as a visitor, for you as como viajero, as a traveler, como turista, as a tourist, the most important commands for you to know are usted commands. Because as a tourist, you are often stuck in situations where you're talking to total strangers, okay? You're not often talking to your best bud when you're a tourist. You're talking to somebody in a store. You're talking to a nurse in an office, God forbid, but you know, well, you could be. You're talking to the guy behind the counter, to the guy on the street that you're asking for directions. That's who you're talking to. So for you, the most important thing will be to know how to use an usted command. So we're going to talk about those today. Okay. Es un repaso. For some of you, this will be a review. For some others of you, it may be like totally brand new. No importa, does not matter, right? Commands mean you're telling somebody, do this, right? If you tell your kids, take out the trash, it doesn't mean it's done yet. It doesn't mean it's happening now. You want that person to do it, right? But it is not necessarily happening right now. So command is something you are pushing your will out on someone else, but it hasn't actually happened yet. Okay, so how do we give a command? How do we give somebody, and it sounds so formal to say, well, I'm giving an order, but that's what you're essentially doing. Okay, we're going to look at, again, we're going to take that sacar that they use with la lengua. We're going to plug in that la lengua word, the tongue. The way you say stick out your tongue is sacar la lengua, right? That's the verb. By the way, in a pinch, you can use the infinitive itself totally unchanged as a command. In a pinch, kind of as an exclamation. In a pinch. So if you totally have a big brain fart, because we all do that sometimes, and you can't remember, you can use an infinitive. Okay. AR verbs are going to form commands one way, and ER and IR verbs are going to share the same kind of command. They will do a different command. So they're going to group together into those two camps. ER and IR verbs often stay in one camp, and the AR verbs stay in another, right? Sometimes the ER and IR verbs diverge, but in this sense, when we're talking about commands, and when we are making commands for usted, and I'm going to put ustedes in here too, because really the only difference is one letter, tag on one extra letter. So it's kind of a no-brainer. Commands for usted and ustedes are very consistent. So we're going to talk about those now. Essentially, commands for usted and ustedes are going to use the opposite vowel. They're going to use what sounds like the wrong vowel. Okay? So in other words, AR verbs are going to take the kind of endings you're used to for ER/IR. ER/IR verbs are going to take the kind of endings you're used to for AR. Okay. So let's look at sacar la lengua. Well, you heard it as sacar la lengua because he was talking to a kid, and that is a tu command. The tu command is sacar la lengua, but the usted command uses the opposite vowel. So that means it won't be an ah. It'll be what sound? Instead of an ah, it'll be an sound. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Okay, there's something wrong with that automatically, because that spelling does not get you to sake. Saca la lengua, stick out your tongue. But sake la lengua, how do I have to spell it if it's sake?
S-A-Q-U-E?
Q-U-E, it's got to go to a Q-U-E. It's a phonetic thing because, guys, that would spell, it would sound like sase, sase. C-E is the S sound. So in order to get back to a k sound, I have to make it a Q-U-E, okay? So sake la lengua would be stick out your tongue, sake. So what's the ustedes going to be? Saquen. Yay! Stick an N on the end. It's an ustedes command. Okay, admittedly, you're not going to tell 15 people to all stick out their tongues at the same time. But let's take a nice easy verb to use, comer, right? And escribir. Comer and escribir. Okay, we're going to take comer. You say to somebody, hey, eat. You want them to enjoy themselves, right? Eat. Come is what you would expect, but we're going to take the opposite vowel. It's going to become coma, right? For ustedes, coman. For escribir, you would expect escribe. Actually, escribe would be a tu command, but we're going to take the opposite vowel. Escriba or escriban. There you go. Escriba aquí, right here. Bien? Okay. Let's take a verb that doesn't have that Q-U-E. We did sake because they used that in the video. But let's say we want something really generic, like take these pills, take these pills. Tomar would be to take something, ingest it, right? Toma would be the tu command, but the usted command will use the opposite vowel. It'll be what? What do you think, guys?
Tome?
Tome. If you're talking to more than one person, tomen, just stick an N on the end. Okay. You get the general idea? See?
Mhm.
Okay. Let's take a look at something different. Now, there's going to be one hitch to this. With a plain old kind of vanilla flavor verb like comer and escribir and vivir and tomar, it just works to slap on that other vowel. But the real formal rule is a little more complicated. So now we're going to inject one more little complicated thing. And that thing is generally start with the yo form. It's a good idea to do this. And the reason is that in commands, there are a lot of verbs that are formed off of these irregulars. So if you start with the yo form, you'll never get anything wrong. So, you know, saco would be yo, como would be yo, escribo would be yo, tomo would be yo. But if I've got salir, yo is not salo, it's
Salgo.
salgo. If I've got tener, it's not teno, it's tengo.
Bingo.
If I've got venir, it's not veno, it's vengo. Okay. Okay, so we've got lots of these verbs, and these are not the only ones, but lots of these that are go verbs, or conocer. Conocer, for example, is conozco. So we have lots of these odd things. So if you start with yo, you'll never get a command wrong. For usted and for ustedes. This is for usted and for ustedes. You start with the yo and you'll never get it wrong. So start with the yo, ditch that o, and then put the opposite vowel on, okay? So salgo will becomes, well, okay, but let's go back. Salgo comes from salir, right? So if I start with salgo, I'm going to use the opposite vowel. It becomes salga, right? Tener, if I start with tengo, I know I need an opposite vowel from an ER verb. Tener is an ER verb, so it's tenga. For venir, it's an IR verb. If I start with vengo, it becomes venga. Okay, so salga, go out, salgan, tenga. Why would I need a command with tenga? Who says have? Tenga cuidado, be careful. Tenga cuidado, be careful. Tengan for the plural. Venga, come. Vengan, come, right? You know, with this verb conocer, it would become conozca. And then it would be like, you know, meet somebody, you know, something like that. Okay, bien? So that's the down and dirty on usted commands. And usted commands are always consistent. So if you say come, venga, right? If you say don't come at 8 because you wanted to come a different time. Oh, don't come at 8. No venga. Usted is very consistent. And usted command is always one thing, whether it's venga or no venga, always the same. Whether it's salga or no salga, always the same thing. If it's a do it command, it's one thing. If it's a don't do it command, it's the same thing, just with a no in front of it. Bien? Fácil, ¿verdad? Easy, yeah? See? Okay. Do you want a little list of easy commands that you hear people say a lot, so that you start to think about it? We come in and practice them.
Yes. please.
Okay.
Yes.
These are going to be things you hear on the street a lot. Like, look, go, come, turn, keep going. These are all going to be things I want you to think about. And if you have to look up a yo form first, because sometimes you may need to, let me just test that out and see if you can just Google it, or if you have to actually look up a 500. Yeah. I'm gonna play with that. Oh yeah. You can just type in the verb and put in command, and it'll probably just spit it back at you. Bien? It'll probably do it that simply. So next week we'll come in and practice some really simple, like 1 or 2 word things that people use a lot. And we're only going to do the usted or ustedes. So just know how to do those. And then we're going to talk more about the tú, because the tú will sadly do opposite things. And it's a stinker. Okay, bien? But we do the easy ones first. Because then I see, tengan confianza, be confident. If you know, and as a tourist, you're going to need the usted commands more than you need the buddy commands. Yeah, see, because we have to deal with people we don't know, and we want to be polite. So, okay, así es. Bien, I will give you el nuevo episodio de Destinos. We'll take a look at that. You'll probably hear some more past, so just, be aware of that. I'll give you out a little bit of practice with that. ¿Quieren algo de leer, sí o no? Do you want a little article to read for next week for some reading practice, sí? Okay. Voy a buscar un artículo apropiado. I will look for something appropriate, not too long, not too short, not with tons and tons of past tense. See, un poquito, quizás, it'll be hard to avoid all past tense, but un poquito, a little bit of something. ¿Está bien?
Sí, sí.
Magnífico. Entonces nos vemos. We'll see you guys. Next week is our last week for winter session. Spring will start up April 6th.
We have 1 week off.
Yeah, 1 week.
Yeah, there's 1 week off. That's built in so that if people missed a session because their instructor couldn't come, they do a makeup. So, okay, así es. Bien, ¿está bien? ¿Hay preguntas antes de salir? Antes de salir, before leaving. ¿Hay preguntas o no?
No.
¿No? Nada. Ok, fantástico. Entonces nos vemos. Y gracias por todo. Thank you for everything. Nos vemos el miércoles.
Adiós.
Salud.